Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. We got this Pinbot in, one of the greatest games ever, right? Got this in a while back, and at the time it had an issue with the displays, so I shot a video of us fixing the displays just when we got it in. Really, the only reason I even filmed that was because I was kind of curious as to what the display issue was, but we were able to fix that. And so if you haven't seen that video, we did a whole video on the displays on this particular machine. Go check it out. It's here on our channel. It probably uploaded yesterday or the day before. I don't know yet how many videos we're going to do of this, but I know this one will be after that one, and I always run them in order, so go check that out. So we already had this thing up and running, but we didn't play it or anything, and it still needed a lot of work, but we did get the displays fixed. So it has been sitting in storage in our back room for probably 3 months or so, something like that. So I haven't turned it on or anything since then, but we're finally going to fix it. We're getting a little closer to Christmas. It's about time to get this thing ready so that somebody can buy it and have a happy holiday with it. What do you think about that? We're kind of low right now on working games. We've got some sitting over here that we have worked on recently. But all those are sold. So when people come through the door, they don't have anything to buy. Wah, wah, wah. So we got to fix that. So we're going to get this one ready and see if it lasts more than a week after we fix it. It's next on the list. And it's such a fun game. I'm sure somebody will enjoy having this for Christmas. So we're going to check it out. And like I said, I haven't plugged it in months. You saw that in that other video, we had the displays going. It seemed like it was up and running, but we never even played a game. So we're going to turn her back on and see what we get. Came right up. Sounds like it's looking for the pinball or something. If it came right up, that means it must have batteries still in it. You know what that means. So, it looks like we've got some light issues. Huh? Some of the lights aren't working on the little, that board up there. I see the middle drop target light isn't working. That could just be bulbs and stuff, I don't know. We bought this from a gentleman who had already worked through it a little bit, and it's pretty clean and everything. The only thing I don't like about it is it has black rubbers on it. And I prefer the white rubbers on it. I think it makes it look cleaner. So back in the day, I think almost every game came with white rubbers on all of the posts. I don't know about this specific one, but pretty much whenever you ordered one of these, you always got, I think every game, if you look on the flyer, it came with white rubbers. Pretty much every machine ever released. And then the operators, though, preferred to put these black ones on it because they last longer. And they don't look as dirty whenever they're old. The white ones get dirty quick. So if you put these on there, they last longer. They don't get as dirty, but they don't look as good. It makes the playfield look kind of dark. The white ones do a nice job of outlining everything and makes it look a lot better, a lot cleaner. And they bounce different too. The black ones don't bounce the same as the white ones do. So, same thing with the flipper rubbers. The black ones are like a harder composition. So we'll probably, I hate to commit right here on the first video to removing all of these rubber bands and putting white ones on. But we might just do that, but we might not. I'll talk to Joe and see what he thinks. But the first thing that I do see is there's some lights out, so I don't know if that's going to be the underplay field, the bulb needs replaced, or if we've got a problem with the board. But the first thing I'm going to do, on the previous video, we worked on the displays, so we rebuilt the power supply as part of that. So that's already been done. And I always, whenever I work on them, I start at the beginning and work my way through the game, which is exactly what we did. We started with the power and worked on the power supply first. So the next thing that I would have messed with if I'm going to do this, if it was a not working game, is I would work on the PCB. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the PCB out, the main board, and resolder the connections all the way around the edge of the board, which can cause things like lights not working, things like that. And I'm also going to install an NVRAM that I've been doing on some of these lately. Look, we're getting a little ghosting on that one display. Might have to watch that. You saw it, didn't you? See it? So we might have to keep our eyes on that. And I'm going to put an NVRAM in it. I'm going to resolder the connections all the way around the board. And so I'm going to pull that out and we'll check it out. And that way we can get rid of the batteries on the board and not have to worry about those corroding the board in the future. So let me pop the back glass off real quick. Okay, so here's how we left it last time. There is the power supply, which we've already fixed. You've got the soundboard up here. You've got the master display over here, which we've worked on already. You've got the flipper power supply board there, and then this is the main PCB that controls everything. I believe this is a System 11 as opposed to a System 9. I think there's only a few System 9s. I don't know what order we're going to upload these in, but those Pennant Fevers, if you watched all that we did, it was a System 8. Very similar. So what I'm going to do is we're going to pull that board out, and then we'll take a look at it, and then we'll see about the NVRAM install and check that out, and see if we can get this thing where we don't have to even mess with the boards anymore. But one of the things that I'm going to do while I have it out is check all of the transistors that down here that run the lights as well, and all of that, and then we'll pop it back in, and then it may just be as simple as a bunch of the bulbs are burnt out. Okay, folks, so I've pulled it out and I resoldered all the connectors. I'll show you that here in a second. So these boards have sections that do different things. So just guessing off the top of my head, you know, you got your ROMs over here. So this is going to be kind of the CPU area. Where would the clock be? Yeah, the clock's right there. So this is your CPU area. This is probably the RAM. That we need to replace with the NVRAM that doesn't need a battery backup, but we'll check that out in the manual just to make sure. So that's this. This area up here is the sound section. This is actually the sound amp. And there are connectors up here and a ribbon cable that connect to the soundboard that was above it that I believe handles the speech. And then I believe that comes back down and is all mixed together and amplified and sent out to the speakers. This area down here, a lot of the Williams games had these rows of resistors. This is for the lamp matrix. So this is going to be all of your lights down here. You get this area down here. So you got a lot of solenoid drivers, it looks like. So this is probably the area that controls all of the solenoids, the pop bumpers, the kickers, all the goodies. And then you have an area up here with just a few of them. I don't know what that is. I'm going to guess that's special solenoids. We'll look it up. Sometimes they have, there are certain solenoids that, I don't know for sure that this applies here, but there are certain solenoids on games that the computer controls. So the computer tells the solenoid to pull in. So that would be something like an eject hole or something. So the ball lands in it, hits a switch. The switch tells the computer, hey, the ball landed in the hole. The PCB says, plays a music hit or whatever, adds 5,000 points, maybe plays another music hit or whatever, makes a light change on the playfield and builds up the bonus or whatever, and then tells one of the solenoids to pop the ball out. So the computer controls it. But there's also ones called special solenoids, and again, I don't know for sure that's what these are, but we'll look here in a minute. Special solenoids are, they kind of run themselves. So a switch closes, that connects power, and somehow that makes it where it just does it immediately, so that the computer doesn't need processing power for it. I may be completely wrong about that on this, but we'll look at it here in a minute. I know a lot of the Bally's have stuff like that, but it's a little bit more primitive system. The Bally system that I'm talking about was designed in like 77 or came out in 77. These system 11s are more like 85 or 86. But I found an interesting thing on here as well. There was a transistor here that's burnt up. Looks like it's a 2N3904. And then they've done some hackery. Lots of hackery. Now usually whenever you find something like this on a board, it probably works like this. They probably got it working, but it's not real reliable, because if something breaks this little wire or anything happens, that'll stop working again. So we're going to try to make it a little more permanent. I actually ran a wire around the edge of the board to one of the pins. I don't know. We might have to do the same, but we'll see. And that is the area that was burnt up. You can see the darkened area there where the lamps run kind of hot, the lamp matrix. And you can see where I reflowed all of the solder on all of the connectors all the way around it. Luckily on this one, at some point they've replaced the battery holder, but luckily on this one there doesn't seem to be any corrosion to worry about. So it's a nice clean looking board, with the exception of this little hack right here. So I'm going to look up and see what that is. It's Q49. So I've got the schematics here that were inside it. Let's see if we can find a Q49. I don't even know. Now, there was, let me think here. This connector here runs the displays. So there's also some stuff up here that does display stuff. I think maybe this PIA does displays, and then the connections to the edge of the board all run right under the battery holder. So if you get problems on your displays, sometimes it's corrosion related. Let's see if these schematics are going to tell us anything. These manuals are pretty nice for the Williams stuff. Alphanumeric display, schematic, we must have used that last time. CPU board. Okay, so that part that we're talking about, it says, at least the connector, it says switch and opto column. So it's part of the switches. Another connector for switches, solenoids and solenoids. And then up here we've got special solenoid switches and special solenoids. So it was like I thought. Rapidly firing solenoids. Okay, so we're looking for Q49. It might give us some kind of idea of why that thing would have burned up. So I'm just scanning through, seeing if I see anything around a Q49. See what it's responsible for. Okay, so Q49 is a switch matrix transistor. Now, why would a switch matrix transistor be burned slap the hell up like that, where it literally caught the board on fire? Why would that be? Like, you know, if a switch gets stuck, it wouldn't make something burn up. You're just connecting switch voltage, which is probably 5 volts, to another part of the matrix, and that's how it tells that the switch is on. So why would that burn up? And a 2N3904 doesn't usually just fail like that, at least. So why would that be burn up like that? It's probably because somebody was working on the game while it was turned on, or they bent something out of the way or something, and then turned the game back on, and then they probably somehow shorted solenoid voltage to one of the switch rows. Now another thing you can do is Q49, it says it's matrix drive 2. See how it says ST2? So what you can do is you can look in the switch matrix, if we can find that. Usually on these it's on the back of the book. This isn't really all that important, but it's kind of interesting, you know. I like doing, like I like kind of investigating them, trying to figure out what happened, what might be, why is this here, why is that there. It's just interesting, you know. I mean, yeah, you can just fix it and play it, but isn't it kind of cool trying to figure out what the hell happened with that one burning up? Why would it do that? So here's the Pinbot switch matrix table. These are your columns and these are your rows. Let me make sure I figure out exactly which one it is. Okay, it's 1J8-2. 1J8-2. So yeah, Q49. Okay, so that transistor got screwed up. So one of these switches had a serious problem. So the tilt switch, maybe. Oh my, what have we there? Left lane change, right lane change. Left out lane, left return lane, right out lane, and the out hole. So these switches here, left lane change and right lane change, are usually, I believe, now I might have this wrong, but usually those are actually on the flipper. So you press the flipper button while you're playing the game, and it makes a little light move up at the top. They call it lane change for the rollovers at the top. Now I don't know. Is it like that on Pinbot? I don't know. It says left and right lane change, but the on most games, usually you press the button on the side and it makes a little light change at the top, so that whenever the ball rolls through one of the top lanes, you can move it to one of the unlit ones so that you can score all three of them or whatever it is. So the way they make that work is they either put the switch on the cabinet, or they put the switch on the actual solenoid on the flipper. So there is another switch on the cabinet and on the solenoid. Now I don't know about the cabinet one on this System 11, but there's another switch either next to it on the cabinet or next to it on the flipper that is the end of stroke switch. So I had this all backwards before. It adds the second coil in whenever the do I have that right? Yeah. It adds the second coil in whenever the switch opens. So, my whole point is that has solenoid voltage running through it. So it's like 42 volts or whatever it is on System 11. And then it's right next to this switch that's part of the switch matrix that has 5 volts or whatever it is running through it. So there is usually some kind of thing separating the two switches so they can't touch each other, because if they touch each other, bam, you blow up Q49. So there was probably some point, we'll look at that here in a minute just to see if either one of them look like they're screwed up. There was probably some point in the past where the solenoid voltage on the end of stroke switch shorted to the lane change switch, sent 40 volts back to this little transistor and blew it sky high, and caught part of the board on fire. So I'm going to pull that all off, see if I can clean it up a little better, and then we'll see if we can get it to look a little better. Okay, I was able to clean it up pretty good. Got the back cleaned up pretty good. A lot better than it was. Remember, it was all black. What I used was, I have this new little tool. Look at this. One of our watchers, Neil, sent me this. I didn't have one of these. It's this little scratch brush with fiberglass. Well, if I can get it to work. They work better with two hands. And I'm going the wrong way. It's these little tiny fiberglass bristles. It's not going to focus like that. And And you can, that's like a bunch of little pieces of fiberglass, like brush bristles. And whenever you scrape on something, it gets all down in every little part of everything and scratches the hell out of it. And I think they call it a scratch brush. And they make little refills for it too. The brush part is about that long. And you can turn it in and out like a pencil, like a mechanical pencil. And it worked really good. So the guy that sent it to me is Mr. Neil. Thank you, Neil. I appreciate that. We'll use it. Very cool. He even ordered it on Amazon. So we have a down below the video, we have a bunch of links to Amazon. If you click on those, it takes you to the Amazon in your country. It has different ones. And anything you buy on Amazon for yourself, not for me, Neil was just very generous. But anything that you decide that you want to buy on Amazon, like I bought some lamps on there a little bit ago. If you click my link first, whenever you go to Amazon, it pays me a little royalty. So we appreciate everybody that's been doing that. We had so I was just saying Neil did that. So he bought this on Amazon and then sent it to me. What a guy. We had a guy on there earlier that bought a leaf blower. That's one of the coolest things anybody's ever bought on our Amazon link. They bought a lot of stuff, but a leaf blower, that's pretty cool. So thank you, whoever did that too. But anyway, I'm going to put a new 2N3904 in there. And if you look really close, they were really good about designing these boards to where everything's identical. So I don't have anything to point at it with. I need a pointer. I guess I could use this fiberglass pen thing. If you look really close, what's happened is the traces have gotten all screwed up. That's why they had the jumper wires. But if you look, there's only 3 legs. And if you look at this one next to it, for each one of these circuits, there is a resistor and then a capacitor. And so the capacitor is tied to this first leg. And so you can see where there was a trace there, but now it's all screwed up. So what I need to do is whenever I put that in, on the back of the board, I'm going to bend the leg around to where it touches where the capacitor trace is. Okay? And then the resistor, if you see, has a trace that it goes around to the middle leg. And you can kind of see where it was, but you can see that it's gone. So what I'm going to do is when I put that in, I'm going to bend the middle leg around on the back of the board to where it touches the resistor. Right? And then this last leg, there was a little trace connecting it to this ground plane. Or I assume that's ground. Yeah, it's ground. And so I should be able to get some solder on there to where that leg is touching this ground plane. So on the back, you can see each one of the 3 has 2 connections. This top one, no, I'm wrong. It only has 1 connection. This bottom one goes around to the pin. So that one that they had jumping all the way up to here, I don't know what that was all about. I guess it was, I don't know why they were doing that. Maybe there's another trace that I do not see. Yeah, it's just those ones. So they had a wire jumping from there to here. That was unnecessary, I think. If you get those 3 where they're connected to here and here, you're good to go. So I don't know what the hell they were doing there, but we're not going to do it like that. We're going to do it a lot cleaner. Let me show you what I come up with, and then we'll check it with the schematics. Usually when you do this, you don't have to go through all this trouble, but I'm just trying to make an interesting video where we make sure of every little thing, best that we can. And I like to double and triple check. So let me put one in and see how clean I can get it to look. Okay, folks, I got it in there. On the top, the only connection that mattered was this one. That trace was burned up, but it was replaced. Okay. And then the other two legs are through the holes, but they're not actually soldered to anything on the top. Now you could get cute and put a little jumper, like a cap leg or the leg of the transistor on the top if you wanted. Or you could even, I'll show you on the back here in a minute, you could even leave one of the legs out of the hole and use it to connect on the top. But I did it through the thing just so it'd look a little cleaner. And then on the back, the bottom leg goes over here, but then the middle leg has to go over here, so they actually cross. So I put a little bit of heat shrink tube on it. And then the top leg doesn't solder to anything on the bottom. Okay, and so this capacitor is right here. The capacitor grabs the one leg and then comes over here to pin 3 on this resistor network, which has also been replaced. If you can see, it's actually got a socket there. So the resistor network connects to pin 2. So they had that jumper going around to pin 2 and all that, just completely unnecessary. If you look at the schematic, you didn't need all that. So all you have to do is make sure that it is connecting to everything that it shows you on the schematic. So I use the multimeter, and one leg of Q49 is connected to R78. One leg of Q49 is connected to ground. I guess that's probably the emitter. Right, they're all connected to the ground. And then there is a capacitor that connects from ground to the other leg, right, which connects to pin 3, and then pin 3 is connected to pin 2. All that's correct. So all that's connected. So we're good. We're good. We're good. So let me show you the battery backup. So these games, they have settings and things in them, and they also have the high score that it needs to remember. Or it doesn't need to, but that's how they wanted it. You know, they wanted it to have settings that you can change, and they wanted it to have the ability to save high scores. So they used batteries to do that. So if you look on the schematics, eventually you find here are the 3 batteries. So this is the section that does it. And then the purpose of the batteries is it creates a voltage that's there when the game is turned off. So when the game's turned off, the batteries are creating, I guess, 4.5 volts, something like that. Maybe 4.8 volts, something like that. It goes through this diode, which drops it a little bit. The purpose of this diode is so that whenever the board is powered up, you don't get, see, the power connects in through here, right? So 5 volts comes from the power supply whenever the game's on. And it comes through this diode over to here. Now, if the game is turned on, if you didn't have this diode, the 5 volts would connect to the batteries and could overcharge them and make them blow up and everything else. So they put this diode in here basically just to block that voltage. But it does allow the voltage to come this way, right? And then the same thing, I guess they have the diode here. Well, I don't know. That's a 5617. I don't know what that's for. Maybe that drops it a little bit. But the whole purpose of it is when the game is turned on, it's getting its 5 volts from the power supply to this RAM chip. So this is a 6116 basically. Okay. So when the game is turned off, now you get voltage leaching in from these batteries to the same pin that keeps this particular chip needs that constant voltage just to keep the settings so it doesn't get erased. It's a RAM chip. So anyway, All that back in the day. So if you find that, that's the chip that needs to change. So what we're doing is, this is the chip that was in there, which was a Toshiba TC5516AP-2 from Japan. And a lot of these chips have date codes that you can read pretty easily. So that 8619 would mean 1986, and the 19 would mean the 19th week of 1986 is when this chip was made. So, time has passed and the world has turned, and there are modern alternatives. So, we've been getting these little bad boys. This is from NVRAM.weebly.com. You can go there and buy these. They're like 15 bucks. So what this is this little chip here. I don't even know what it is. FM16W08-80. Alright, so it's a surface mount chip. And this gentleman has made a little breadboard, or a little, what do they call it? Has made a little board here to adapt that surface mount chip that he has soldered onto this board to the original footprint of the 6116. But the difference is this chip doesn't need a battery. So it's non-volatile RAM. It doesn't erase without a voltage. So all you have to do to make it where you never need batteries again is you spend $15 for that thing. And then you take the old 6116 out of the board. Now this socket I just put in there, so it was soldered in. I had to desolder it. You can see the old solder on the chip. Not a bad job though. Oh, and I'm going to save this because the game was working fine, right? So I'm going to save this. I mean, that's a $3 or $4 chip. So to me, these only cost like $10 because I get to save the old chip. And then you install the socket. When I install the socket, what I like to do is check everything with a multimeter. So I went through and I checked to make sure everything, all the traces were connected where they're supposed to be. It takes an extra 10 or 15 minutes. But that way you know everything's soldered in right. So if you look, see the weave? That's what I call it. See how these pins all have lines that come down and they all go parallel to each other? What they're doing is they're jumping over to this chip and hitting these pins, and then you see it continues going. It goes over this chip and hits these pins. So it's not as hard as it seems. You can check this pin with this pin, and they're connected together. And then this pin, and they're connected together. And you can look on the schematics and figure it all out. But I basically just go through and check to make sure that it's connected to something. Now, there's a couple that are different that aren't connected to anything on this chip, but it's not that hard to check them with a multimeter to make sure that you got all of your pins are touching something. You just don't want them touching each other. Okay, so see the little notch up there? That's telling me which direction it needs to be in. And we're going to install it in our socket here. Got my notches lined up so the chip is facing the correct way. And that's that. So now that that's installed, we will never, ever need batteries again. And as you can see, they were trying to start their disgusting, dirty march towards destroying the board. So since it does have a little bit of corrosion on it, I'm going to pull the whole battery. I'm going to pull this whole thing off so that the corrosion can't spread, and also so that people don't put other batteries in there. If you leave that open like that, somebody might put batteries in it, even though it doesn't need them, not knowing, and then forget to change those batteries that aren't even doing anything. So I'll pull that holder off real quick. Okay, so I popped that off. It's gone for forever. And there's no battery damage. There's no corrosion of any kind that I can see anywhere. So you can see the traces that run underneath the battery holder up here to these resistor networks and then to the displays. I think these go to the displays too. And you can see that if there was any corrosion, it would attack your displays first. So if you're getting crazy stuff on your displays, It may be that. But in this case, it is not that, okay? Okay, so I think we're good. I also checked all of these solenoid transistors to make sure everything was cool. I checked all of these transistors here to make sure everything was cool. The way you do that is you just set your meter on diode check. I had it on resistance because I was ohming out my socket there. You put your meter on diode check. Am I seeing things right? Yeah. You put your meter on diode check, and then you go through and compare them to each other. You know. So on this one, ground on the tab, which is the center leg, and then check it compared to the outside legs, and you should get between 0.4 and 0.7 on everything. Something similar on these. And so whenever you've got like 20 of them, you don't even have to memorize like what the readings are supposed to be or anything. You just measure them against each other and see if they all act similar. If they do, then they're all good. If you find one that's like way different than the other ones, it's messed up. You need to check that one out. But all these are cool. So the little light problems that we've got on the board are probably either the connector or a bad solder that was on these that we resoldered, or it's just old light bulbs. These special solenoids, all of those tested fine. And the sound was working great, as you heard earlier, so this one's ready to put back in, I think. We fixed our one little switch matrix problem. Hopefully that'll be just fine. And we've got our NVRAM in. Hopefully that'll work just fine. So let's go pop it back in the machine and see if we're at least back where we were. Okay, let's see if she wants to cooperate. Now, if it does come up, it's going to be in bookkeeping because I took the batteries out, so everything got reset. Factory setting. That's what we wanted. I think if you just go all the way through it. All right, she's up and running. Everything looks cool. Looks like it's how it was. So, now what am I going to do? I'm going to turn it off. And we're going to try turning it on again. See if it comes up in its... Well, that wasn't good. See if it comes up in its factory settings again. This won't be disastrous at all. Hey, we pulled it off. All right, so we're trying to see. So we turned it off. We're trying to see if it's going to save the settings. So we just reset it by going through bookkeeping, right? It did. Came right back up. So cool. All right, well there you go, people. I guess we still have a lot of work to do, though. We didn't really accomplish anything. All we did was get rid of the batteries and clean up the board a little bit, and we figured out that our light bulb problems don't have anything to do with the board. Why say you? But what do we know about the main board now? What do we know about the power supply? It's fine, folks. The power supply's fine. What do we know about the main board? It's fine, folks. Main board's fine. So we did the stuff that we needed to do on the power supply on the previous video. We did the stuff that we needed to do on the main board on this video, and we're working right through it. Our goal is that we want it to be reliable. You know, we're selling it to somebody for their home who may or may not be savvy at working on these. You know, so we're trying to get it where it's reliable. So we're trying to fix things that are problems. The power supply screws up, we fix that. The solder gets bad on the edge connector of the main board, we fix that. That won't be a problem anymore. The batteries die or corrode and eat the thing alive, we fix that. That's not a problem anymore. We found some hackage on the board, we fixed that. Give me sight. Alright, so we've got it fairly reliable in my opinion. Fairly reliable, but there is much more to do. We will do what there is much more to do on the next video, so stay tuned. Like usual, we'll run these all week, so we'll see you on the next video. Make sure to give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments down below and let us know what you think. Thank you for everybody that's been clicking our Amazon links. And have you checked out our brother channel, my brother Donnie? We are working on a grocery store now. So we bought this old grocery store. It's a small one. It's not a big one. This old grocery store, and we're fixing it up. So we've been doing some crazy stuff over there. It has nothing to do with arcade games or pinball machines, but go check that out if you get a chance. Donnie's always into something. I hate when it does that because that's the same noise it makes whenever the batteries are dead. Gang, 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 and it makes you think that something's messed up. But it's just the track mode. So go check out my brother Donnie. I'll see you over there. I'm usually in a lot of the videos with him. And leave your comments below. Let us know what you think. We'll see you on the next one.